Hello everyone and welcome to Slipjoint Sawyer. Today I've got a really interesting project for you, something that I actually really enjoy and do quite a lot of, but I don't really do many videos or sort of how-tos on how I go about it, but we're going to be doing a restoration of this today. This is an old USA made Ulster scout knife. Now I picked this up on a secondary market from, I believe it was Dan actually over at Blade Bridge. You just get a lot of these sort of older USA models in that need a lot of work and cleaning up. This one was particularly in rough shape. You can see how dark the blades are. It's pretty much rusted out. It was a lot worse than this. Overnight I did soak it in a mineral oil sort of bath because it was just bad, and you can see how dirty that oil has gone. I do have 2 more in there which I'm planning on doing at some point as well. And honestly that mineral oil was enough to sort of free up the bale a little bit. It did sort of free up the blades. You do kind of need to use been using my Leatherman to work on this, so pliers to open it up. But I thought we would just do a sort of restoration project on this. So I believe this is a Eagle Scout or a Cub Scout. It looks more like an Eagle, so I would say it's an Eagle Scout knife. USA made, Ulster, unfortunately discontinued now, and a long gone company. Does look like we have either a synthetic or a Delrin covers on this. Apart from the obvious sort of blade discoloration and the sort of staining of the back springs, and it doesn't seem in too bad a shape. Like I can actually open the main blade on there now. See, we've got Ulster USA on there. You can see the main blade is all there. There's still some sort of edge on it. It's not completely dull. Obviously it's not going to cut anything. Obviously we got carbon steel, but most of that, if not all of that spear point is still there. I've got some sort of snapback as well, just from the mineral oil overnight, which is phenomenal. I also get the standard sort of, these are the ones that are really stiff. So do have to open the main blade before I can open this one. Got the can opener on there. We have the, cap lifter on this side. And then you have the punch on the back as well. Honestly, I'm amazed in what the mineral oil did overnight. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not made the knife brilliant, but it has brought some sort of shine back to it. I know that's because it's caked in oil. But the bale's nice and loose, maybe a little bit more loose than I would like, so I might sort of tighten that up. Definitely going to be cleaning up all the tools. Now, am I going to be taking it back to sort of a mirror polish and all those tools? No, not in the slightest. I want to take off quite a lot of the black, but I want to leave some of the history on the blades. I just want to make it a user, really. I think this would be a fantastic carry. But we're going to jump straight into it and just see how we get on. I will sort of pause it throughout the video, just so you're not watching like an hour-long process of me sort of messing about. But the first thing I generally do is just get some of this sort of emery cloth, and I'm going to go over the whole externals of the knife, and then we'll sort of rub up the blades and see what that comes off. But I really do enjoy sort of restoring these older knives. It's become a lot more of a enjoyable pastime for me. I just find it really relaxing. Like I was watching Paddy, Judd and Mikey's live last night, and they were talking about sharpening knives and how therapeutic they sort of find that. Now, I like sharpening knives. I can freehand more often than not, though I use the Workshop Pro, I believe it is, or Worksharp, just because for ease. But honestly, I strop my knives after I use them every sort of day, so I don't really have to sharpen that much unless I'm doing one of these projects. You can see that emery cloth there bringing up the sort of back springs really nicely. Now, I don't really want to take much more off than that. I'm just sort of going to get the black off a bit more on the sides, and then we'll come back. So I'm back. That took maybe 20 to 30 seconds just to get the majority of the black off the back springs. Now, I love the sort of greying of the carbon steel, so I'm not going to do anything else to the back of that. Just going to give we're going to go with the bolsters next, and this, I believe it's Delrin, I could be wrong, synthetic or Delrin, one of the two. Going to give it a bit of a scuff up with the emery cloth as well, along with the bolsters, and just get some more of that debris off. But it's nothing special, it's just sort of automotive, sort of like a buffing cloth really. I'm not going to go too hard over them, because I don't want to put loads and loads of scratches in there, because I will buff them off afterwards. But I'm just sort of cleaning off the majority of the sort of the junk that's on the top, and just sort of getting off that sort of rust that's sort of stained onto those nickel silver bolsters. Might even go with the sort of a brushed finish on the bolsters and just sort of leave it as it is. See what that looks like. But we're just going to go round. I mean, I'm no expert. Some of you might be watching this and thinking, oh my god, what's he doing? He's ruining the knife. And some of you might actually learn something from this, but I just enjoy doing this. It's very therapeutic. Sort of get at the bail now as well while I'm here. Just get some of the worst off. Nothing too major. How are we looking? You can see the bail needs a little bit of reshaping as well. Slightly off centre with that, but I mean, I don't want to go hitting it too much in case I completely break it, so that may be one of the things that I sort of just leave, because as I mentioned, like, I want to keep the history in the knife as well. I don't want to completely take everything out of it. I'll be looking there pretty good that side. Let's get this side done. Just sort of go. Now I could take this bail out, but as I mentioned, you know, like with hitting it, I don't want to sort of destroy it. I do have a spare bail, but I ideally want to use that on one of the other knives I've got there. One of the ones to clean up, I've got a K-bar, the scout knife as well, that Randy from Randy's WSG sent over. That's still in the list of things to clean up. I've just had such a backlog and been pretty busy at work, so I've not really had much time to do anything other than film regular reviews. So hopefully I can bring some more content like this to you. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, let me know, and I'll happily bring you more. I love doing restorations. I love hunting for knives online as well. I wish I could go hunting in flea markets and things like Kevin at the Knife Doctor does, because I love watching his videos when he goes looking for knives at the flea market. I think it's absolutely fantastic. He does do some pretty decent tidy up jobs on some knives as well, does some things differently than what I would have, but that's how you sort of learn. You do things differently to everyone else. I think that's going to do for the sort of the externals of the knife so far. Just can't really see too much more that needs to come off there, to be honest. Yeah, we will give this sort of a buff up with some soap and get all that junk out and all the dust that's no doubt gone into the pivots from cleaning the externals. But let's work on the main blade to start with, shall we? So you can see that is really pretty bad on there. And the way I like to honestly go about it, I just get like a block of wood and try and prop the knife up at like a similar level, so you're not putting too much pressure on that bolster. So that works pretty well, to be honest. My finger's underneath the handle and that's flat on there. And I'm sort of just going back and forth like this and just seeing how much you can take off with this sort of abrasive cloth. Just back and forth like that, really. It's doing a pretty good job, and honestly I don't want to take too much off the blade, but you can see already how much different that is. But I'll go up and clean up the main blade and we'll sort of come back and move forward from there. So I'm back, I've cleaned up the main blade, and you can probably see from the comparison to the other tools, it's turned out pretty well. Now yes, there's a lot of black spotting on there, but I love that sort of age-related patina. You can actually read the tang stamp on there now. We've got Ulster USA, nothing on the back. A little bit more corrosion in this spot here, but nothing bad, nothing that's going to stop it being a user. You can see cleaned up the back of the knife as well, all the way down to the tang. But impressed with that. All I went with, I carried on with this, getting the worst off. And then I went down to a 600 grit sandpaper just to sort of finish it off and smooth off the sort of the edges on it. Do need to work on the nail nick as well though, that definitely needs some work. But the action, even though it's gritty, is pretty good. But we're going to sort of work on the other tools now. I do need to work on getting this tool usable without having to open the main blade. I mean, you can tell just from looking at the can opener that most of this corrosion has come from it being sort of closed in storage, which you can see just the line of corrosion here, and these bits are actually okay where they've been behind the liners. But we're going to go ahead and work on the can opener now. I'm going to use exactly the same method as I used before. Just going to go at it with this sort of emery cloth rested on here, just go back and forth, exactly the same as what I sort of did with the main blade. So we will have a crack at that, and we will come back when I've got a bit of progress update for you. There we go. I've got most of that black off, exactly the same as I'm going to go for the same sort of aesthetic for the whole knife. I want to clean it up to a point where it's going to be a user and a nice hard use knife, and it's not going to be sort of a safe queen. It was designed to be used, being made for the Cub Scouts, or sorry, Eagle Scouts. Probably getting that wrong. If I am getting it wrong, please let me know. But I'm not going to do too much to that. I've just sort of cleaned up the tip, so there is actually a nice sharp point on there now. Just gone round all the inside with the cloth and the sandpaper, just to get all that nasty junk off. I mean, you can see the dirt that's coming off this thing while I'm doing it. I'm covered. But yep, going to work on the cap lifter now and see what we can get with that one. That's probably the least corroded tool, I would say. I mean, yeah, it's got black on it, but this side's pretty good. And the punch is going to be difficult with that lip on it. I have to work out something with that. But yeah, overall, I'm really loving this thing. I've become a little bit obsessed with camp knives. Started off with Victorinox Swiss Army knives, of course. If you're familiar with my channel and you've seen my previous videos, I'm a big fan of a Swiss Army knife, but camp knife, especially these USA made ones, some of them are made absolutely flawlessly. I mean, look at the back of that. And this thing has got loads of life left in it. The main blade is superb. But yeah, let me jump back on with this, give this one a bit of a clean up. We'll come back. I might even just get the punch out of the way while we're there, and then we'll go more about cleaning the insides, things like that. So I'll catch you in a little bit. Okay, so we're back. So I went ahead and just cleaned up the last two tools. Same with previous tools. I've left sort of the age-related patina on there because I think it just looks really good. Just taken off the surface rust. But you can see there's actually a nice point still on this punch. Can definitely sharpen that up into something useful. And I'm amazed by the point that's left on this still, and even down here, this is quite a mean point down here. I don't think this got much use when it was sort of in rotation with someone from the Scouts. But you can see the inside of the channel there, pretty grotty. I have flushed the pivots just so I could get them open properly. I know it's going to get covered in junk again while I'm getting the inside of the channel cleaned, but we're going to go ahead and hit it with the same sort of emery cloth, so this sort of stuff, get the majority of it out. Then we're going to go in with some sandpaper, and then we're going to finish it off with just some microfibers, things like that, just to pick up all the main junk in there. Might even get a little bit of oil in there, mineral oil, to see if I can loosen up some more. But process for that, I'm just going to go ahead and sort of fold this, get it inside the channel, and just sort of work it back and forth, pretty much just like this, just to see what we can get out of it. I mean, you can see the brass is already taking a shine. It doesn't take a lot to get brass cleaned. It's just the majority of those back springs, but there's no real corrosion. I have given it a good look over with a magnifying glass. I can't see any hairline cracks or anything, so I'm not too worried if it's not pristine on the inside. As I mentioned, you know, it's going to be a user knife for me. I want to, you know, give this another lease of life. You never know, I might move it on to somebody if somebody wants it. We'll see how I get on with it, see if I get more of a connection with it, because I always find with these knives I clean up, I do it with the intention not to sell, because I don't think that's right. I think if you're going to give a knife a new lease of life, I like to just sort of gift it to someone. But the last couple I've done, I've really sort of made a connection with them and just really relaxed and enjoyed the project, so I've wanted to keep them. But we'll see with this one. I don't actually have an Ulster in my collection, so I mean, you can already hear me talking myself into keeping it, so that's probably what's going to happen, let's be honest. See what that's done. So you can see that's taken out quite a lot of it, but I'm going to hit it now with the sandpaper, nothing too abrasive. I'm going to go back with the 600 and just maybe need a bigger bit than that. That's not really going to do it. Just fold this bit up and into a couple of bits, just so it's thick enough to get in the channel. And we'll just go back and forth with that in there like that. And see what sort of rubbish we're picking up. You can see on the sandpaper the amount of sort of junk in there, but you can see it's doing a good job. We're getting some sort of shine in there. Go down, make it a little bit thinner so you can get right to the very corners. Sort of work those liners. Not too much dirt coming out, which is surprising, but it looks like it's just sort of surface rust and things. You can really see the, see if I can get, there we go, some natural light in there. Just going to go over a little bit more with some sandpaper, get a bit more of them back springs cleaned up, and then we'll come back and do the sort of the finishing touches, bits and pieces I like to do with a knife afterwards. Be back in a minute. Okay, so we've cleaned off all the junk. I've flushed all the pivots out, so it's all running nice and smooth, although it's not oiled, so it's not, it feels kind of gritty, but that's just because there's no oil on there at all. You can see the shape the blades have got now. Really nice and clean. Do need to hydrate these. You can tell it is Delrin. This is sort of what Delrin does. It goes that sort of whitey kind of like dusty look when it's a bit dry, but we can sort that with some really nice mineral oil. This one's from Twisted Assisted. It's a really great product. It's knife oil and it's food safe as well, which is the big reasons why I use it, especially for my camp knives. I'm going to be camping. I'll be using it to cut food at some point. But we're going to go ahead and polish up the bolsters, the shield if I can get in all the little grooves, and just around the sides, the bail, all that sort of thing. Not too crazy, just enough to give it a little bit of a shine. For that, I'm going to be using Auto Sol. It's just a metal polish. Pretty much use it for everything I'm polishing. Not too abrasive, just a little cutting compound really. So for that, just going to put a little dot on a microfiber, and when I say little, I mean like that. Maybe that's probably even too much. I'll just sort of rub it into the cloth, and then you just sort of go, put a bit on the knife, and just sort of work it in. And it doesn't take a lot to really bring out, especially brass. You can see the colour that it's still dirty, but even after all that scrubbing, washing back and forth, it's still picking up impurities on the springs. But as I mentioned, we're not going to go too crazy. That's pretty much all I'm going to do for polishing. You just sort of buff it off then when you're happy with where you've got. Does a pretty good job, I think, that Auto Sol. That brass is nearly mirror finish. You can see the reflection of the camera in it. Not bad. I'm going to do the same with the bolsters, and then we'll come back once I've got those done. And there we go. We've done the bolsters. You can see they're not perfect, but I wasn't going for perfect. I was going for user. Gone all the way around, buffed them up as best I can, sort of a little bit. Going to go a bit on the blades as well now. Not to take off any more patina, just to bring out a bit more of that shine that's in the background. Give them a bit more of a pop. I'll do that on all the tools. I'm not expecting too much from the sort of the can opener and stuff, because I mean there's still quite a lot of the black on there, but this blade I reckon will come up pretty nicely. And I'm also going to try and clean some of that dirt out of the Ulster logo and out of the nail nicks as well. Now, I'm probably going to use some little diamond files to do that. I bought a set very recently for another project, and there's one in here with a particularly fine point on it, if I can find it. Where are we? Here, this one here. It's got a very, very fine tip on it, and it goes diamond all the way to the bottom. So what I'm going to do with that, I'll rest it on the desk to do it, but just to show you, I'm going to sort of just scrape, it makes a horrible screeching noise. I'm going to scrape out inside the nail nicks. You can see where it's come loose. It's gone kind of a lighter brown in there. But I'm going to polish the blades, and I'm going to do a bit more with the diamond file, trying to get inside of the Ulster as well. I don't know if I'll be able to get in there. It seems a little bit too big still, so may have to settle for something else. Might give it a bit of a scrub with a toothbrush, see if I can get in there anymore. But we'll come back when that's done, and hopefully we shouldn't be far away from a finished product. Just need a bit of a sharpening. Oil the pivots, things like that, and we should be good to go. I'll catch you in a minute. Okay, so I'm back. I've polished all the blades, and I've used some of this mineral oil on the Delrin, and it's really taken out that white of when it goes a bit old in the sun. You can see it's got the shine back, still soaking a little bit. I've not rubbed too much off. I've just sort of given it a nice little rub with a cloth just to take the excess off. But I'm really happy with how this has turned out. Wonderfully smooth on the back there. There's no gaps. I've shone a flashlight through it and couldn't see a thing. I have completely abused my thumb on the edge, as you'd expect. I've stabbed it multiple times. Bolster's got a nice little shine to it. Bail, I decided not to go ahead and hammer that anymore. I didn't want to do any damage to it, so I'm just going to leave it kind of wobbly. Just have to make sure that once it's sharpened, you don't close the main blade like this, but you'll take a big chunk out of the blade. all that's left really is to oil the pivots and give it a sharpen. So I'll give the pivots a bit of an oil while we're here, and then I'll give it a sharpen, and we will take a final look at the finished product. So I'm going to put a little bit too much oil in this to start with, because it will flush out some more dirt that's in that pivot, because it's impossible for me to get it all out without taking the knife apart, and I am not that skilled to go ahead and do that. But I'm just going to sort of work the blade, and you can feel it getting smoother as you go. Has it brought out any dirt this side? Yeah, you can see there a little bit of dirt still coming up. Remember to wipe the sides of the tangs if you see any dirt coming through. So you've got a little bit down here where it's a bit wet with the oil. But honestly, really impressed with that progress so far. So I'm going to go ahead and oil the rest of the tools. I'll give it a sharpen, and we'll look at the final product. And we're back with the finished product. Apologies, the light is fading and I am outside in the garage, but I think we've got an absolutely fantastic result from this. You can see the polish on those back springs. The Delrin is looking nice and healthy now. It's got that coat of oil on it. No more discoloration. Polished up a little bit of that shield. I couldn't get too much in the groove, so I just sort of buffed it as best I could. You can see those really nice nickel silver pins on there as well on the Delrin. Bail on there, cleaned up nice and loose. Maybe a bit too loose, as I mentioned earlier in the video, but I don't want to end up peening it too much, so we're just going to leave it as it is. All the tools are nice and free. You can see there's still the odd bit of dirt coming out, and that will continue while I'm using it, just because it's so hard to get inside the pivot of these things. But you can just wipe it off like that. It's not sort of stained dirt. But nice snap on these tools. I mean, listen to these. Same with the cap lifter on this side. Nice action. Punch as well. Really nice snap on all these tools. I'm really impressed with this. And then of course we've got the main blade here. Put a nice 20-degree angle on this, so that's 20 either side. Didn't want to go too crazy because I want it to be a working knife, so I wanted that edge to last on this sort of carbon steel blade, but it is screaming sharp. Once again, Ulster USA. I'm not sure on the age, I will have to check that, but I don't know, maybe the 70s, could be older, could be newer, not too sure. If anyone knows, please let me know. But I really hope you enjoyed this sort of restoration of this Ulster scout knife. This is for the Eagle Scouts, I believe. If you want to see more videos like this, please do let me know. If you like seeing pocket knife reviews, restorations, shorts of knives, anything to do with knives, you're in the right place. Just make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.